Hi there, welcome back to the Community of Readers video blog. We're following the Old Testament readings for the Monkey Bar Challenge, and this week we take another sidestep into Proverbs, looking at chapters 1 to 9, which is the prologue. This is called Not What You Know. I remember my Old Testament lecturer telling me in his thick French accent, "The fear of the Lord, this is ritual observance. You must remember this." Or something like that, anyway. Well, I have indeed remembered. And he's right. We can't understand Proverbs separately from the spiritual life of Israel. From the cultus, which is the sacrificial system, and the law. We'll come on to this a lot more in the next few weeks, but what the cultus and the law did for Israel was to provide them with a way of relating to God that was integrated with everyday life. So whatever the problems of the sacrificial system, and there definitely were some, it brought that awareness of God into the day-to-day. Whatever the binds of the law, this idea of constant obedience to Yahweh kept them in mind of the person who was supposed to be, at least, a friend rather than a bully. And so it's into this context that two attractive women make their case on the impressionable young teacher's son. Lady Wisdom, who stands by the city gate, calling all who would follow her to a path of life, and Folly, the harlot, an adulteress who would tempt away to destruction all who would be taken in by her charade. Lady Wisdom is not just some kind of pious literary figure in these texts. She's given a kind of quasi-divine status. In chapter 8, it says she was there as the first of his works, appointed from eternity. I was there when he set the heavens in place and when he marked out the foundations of the earth. There I was the craftsman at his side. It's very much like John's use of the Logos. You know, the Logos was with God and was God in the beginning. The wisdom tradition in Israel saw down to earth practical wisdom as the embodiment of a divine creative power. So when the teacher says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom," which is kind of a pivotal phrase in this prologue to Proverbs, what he doesn't mean is being scared of God is the first step on a path to being sensible. It's more like this integrated spirituality, this integrated God consciousness, God in the everyday, is the first step on a path to life rightly oriented with God's creative power. Or in other words, doing the right thing is more than knowing the right answers. It's about knowing the right person. So make knowing God your priority, and you'll be okay. Now for the teacher, the alternative could not be more poisonous. In a similar way to Lady Wisdom, Folly, the harlot, is a real personality that combines the physical and the spiritual aspects of life. So the warnings against her are more than just warnings against sexual adultery. There definitely are that, but that becomes a metaphor for turning away from the path of life to the path of death by juxtaposing folly with wisdom. The teacher creates this powerful sense that to turn away from life is to walk on a path to destruction and death. And just as wisdom is gained through knowledge of God, so folly tries to take people away from that knowledge of God. And so Israel has a choice. Does she follow Yahweh? Does she submit to the Torah, the whole combo of law and cultus? Or does she reject it for an easy life or some pagan prostitute party? The choice for the teacher is everything. It is a matter of life or death. But from a 21st century Christian point of view, I still think these texts have a huge amount to teach us, because what the Israelites had that we lack is this integrated spirituality, where God is part of our everyday, brought into our thoughts, our feelings, our dreams, through even the most mundane of everyday experiences. We don't have a way of understanding how God is with us at work or at school, or in the very mundane day-to-day decisions that we have to make about what energy supplier we use, or what bank to put our money with, or what clothes to buy. Or most of our understanding of God with us is to do with whether we kind of feel fuzzy, like his presence is with us or not. But for Proverbs, it's a much more practical, creative experience than that. I think for us to set ourselves on the path to find wisdom might lead us into a far fuller knowledge of God. And the early Christians used to talk about Jesus as the divine embodiment of that creative wisdom. John in particular using the image of the Logos, which is kind of like a Greek version of the Jewish Lady Wisdom. And Jesus as the true human, not cast out of the garden like Adam, but in full, close relationship with God his Father, shows us what the path of wisdom is. It is to follow him, to follow Jesus, who will lead us into life. Just one question for reflection this week. Try and think of one simple thing that you could do in this coming week to acknowledge the creative, down-to-earth, practical presence of God in your life. If you're in a group, why not share that idea with some others and see what other inspiration you can take. You can find out more about Community of Readers on our website, communityofreaders.com. Until next week, and the beginning of our journey into Leviticus and the rest of the law, have a great week. Cheers.